Good morning, back here again on Friday, May 8th, and for this video I want to go over task 14. So the last one I went over was task 10. I'm skipping around a little bit just because I think this is also kind of a very important one, because this is one that where Mrs. Dyer is going to kind of give you some specific grades for math from this task, okay? So this is kind of one of your more important tasks that you need to make sure that you're giving your best effort on, because what you do in this task is going to go into your math grade, okay? Um, but before we get started, the first thing that you should always do is what? Look in your instruction booklet. So let's go to task 14. And that's actually on the last page of the directions where it says, do the math. So if you turn to, also you might turn that to that in your journal as well. But anyways, the directions on your instruction booklet say this. There are 10 math word problems involving dinosaurs and their environment. One problem per page. So that means that there will be 10 pages of math assignments, one on each page. Most problems involve multiple steps. So it's not just going to be like 3 plus 4 equals what? You're going to have to do multiple things to find the answer. Be sure, this is important, be sure to show your work. Okay. These problems have a correct answer and is the only right or wrong questions in this project. So what that means is this whole project is pretty much up to you. You can do whatever you want with it. However, for this task, there are correct answers, all right? It's not you making up the answer. There are correct answers according to what the problems are in here, okay? Lastly, this is not an optional activity. It is required. So you need to do all 10 of these problems. That's what's going to go in your math grade. So make sure that you do all 10 of these, okay? So then the next thing, if you turn to your journal and go to task 14, you'll see there are 10 different pages that say task 14 on them, since you have 10 different math problems to work out. So it says, your team stumbles across some interesting information regarding the dinosaurs. And then you have your objective, solve the problem below. Now, I do want you to note that a lot of these problems have more than one question. Okay, so when you're reading these on each page, make sure you're really reading them closely and completely, because a lot of the questions have, or a lot of the objectives, I should say, have more than one question that you need to answer. Okay, and you might even want to, if there are more than one question, you might want to put a number on each one and then make sure you put that with your answer, so Mrs. Dyer knows which answer goes with which one of those questions and which part of your work that you did goes with each question, okay? So I'll go ahead and read question 1, okay? I guess it's not question 1, it's the first math problem. So it says, solve the problem below. The T-Rex eats 2 goats per day. At one point, the island had 3 T-Rexes. Using that logic of 3 dinosaurs, answer the questions below. Then you have 3 little bullets there. First one, how many goats were being eaten per day? Okay, so use the information in the problem to help you solve that answer. Next one, how many are eaten per week? So that one's going to be a little bit different. First one was per day. This one's per week. Then your third one, how many would be eaten in the month of May? So for that one, you probably need to find a calendar, maybe find it on your phone or find a calendar around the house to see how many days are in the month of May. Okay, so this first objective, this first do the math problem, you see it has 3 different questions here. Okay, so make sure as you are doing these, you are reading it completely and doing all of the questions. I'll just read through a few more here. The second do the math part says this one, objective, solve the problem below. It says velociraptors normally hunt in packs. That means there's a group of them. 3 raptors chase a deer 525 yards and catch it. How many total yards did the group run altogether? So you're gonna have to remember how many raptors were in the group. Okay. Then there's another one. How many total feet did they run together? And then the next one, how many total miles did they run together? Now, I can remember you guys were working on this earlier on in the year because I helped a lot of people with it during intervention time. So this is definitely some review for you guys from what you did earlier on in the year. Third question says 7 large leaf-eating dinosaurs eat 80 pounds of plants per day. That's a lot of pounds of plants. 6 small leaf eaters would only eat around 35 pounds per day. So you got 2 different types of leaf-eating dinosaurs. Large leaf-eating ones eat 80 pounds. Small leaf-eating ones eat 35 pounds. How many pounds were eaten per day by all 13 of these dinosaurs? Okay. How many pounds would be eaten in a 1 week span? So this one is kind of very similar to the last question. This is the fourth one. Okay. Pre-H Park was sending $3,500 per week to raise and feed goats on the island. So $3,500 per week. Half of that cost went to food, a quarter went to medical, and another quarter went to housing them. How much were they spending a year to raise and feed the goats? So how much were they spending in a year to raise and feed the goats? Notice in your description it says they spent $3,500 a week. So then how much would they have spent in a year? Then, how much were they spending on medical expenses during a 10-week span? Okay, you'll remember medical expenses were only part of that $3,500. So how much were they spending on those just the medical expenses over 10 weeks? And then lastly, how much were they spending on housing the goats over a 20-week span? Okay, so you have to figure out how much they spent on housing the goats per week and then take that over 20 weeks. Okay, I think this is the fifth one. Based on documents you found, there were almost 125 dinosaurs being housed on the island that weighed at least 1,000 pounds. 55 weighed 1,000 pounds. 20 weighed 1 ton. 15 weighed 4 tons. 15 weighed 10 tons. 10 weighed 15 tons. And 10 weighed 25 tons. How many total pounds is this? How many total tons is this? And then it says, remember, 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. Next one. Before the park went silent, the T-Rex stayed in a pen that was 300,000 square yards in size. So 300,000 square yards. The pen was not a square. It had 8 sides as its perimeter. Draw the T-Rex pen using 8 sides with an area of 300,000 square yards. Include the perimeter length of each side of the pen in yards. And it says, remember, area equals the space inside perimeter equals the length around. Okay? So it's 300,000 square yards in size. It had 8 sides as part of its perimeter. So in other words, it'd be like an octagon. Okay? And you need to draw the T-Rex pen and label the sides, how long the sides would be, for an area of 300,000 square yards. Okay? Next one. Based on lab reports, laid dinosaur eggs had almost a 40% chance of hatching and surviving. Use this percentage to find the total number of eggs that would survive for each species of dinosaurs. Write the fraction for eggs hatching closest to 40%. Reduce if possible and label all answers. Okay, so then you have 5 different types of dinosaur eggs here. There were 36 Compy eggs, 8 Velociraptor eggs, 16 Stegosaurus eggs, 6 Brontosaurus eggs, and 10 Diplodocus eggs. Okay, so you have to remember that most of the dinosaur eggs had about a 40% chance of hatching and surviving. Okay? And remember, it also says reduce if possible. Okay? So make sure you simplify. Oops. Next one says eating habits. A Brontosaurus could eat 100 pounds of vegetation a day. 40 pounds were tree leaves. 25% was from bushes. 10% was moss. And 1/4 was algae from rivers. Create a pie chart or graph based on the information above. Label each section with all information you think is important. So if you remember, a pie chart is going to include 100% of something, okay? And then they're going to have little areas within the pie chart that have a certain percentage of that 100%. So I don't know that Mrs. Dyer will necessarily look for it to be like to a T, like correct as far as how big each one of the pieces of the pie are, but you should make it so it is at least somewhat what percentage each one of these things are. Okay. Now you're gonna have to do a little bit of thinking on this one, because some of the numbers are total pounds, some of the numbers are percentages, and another number was a fraction. So you're gonna have to use all of that information to kind of figure out how many pounds of each one of those things it ate to get to the 100 pounds. Okay, so that one's going to take some thinking. It might take you a little bit to figure that one out. Maybe a few more here. 2 more. Okay, next one. Draw and label a 3-dimensional shape of an animal cage based on the information below. The length is 100 feet. The width is 75 feet, and the height is 30 feet. What is the perimeter? So there's your first question. Next question, what is the area? Next one, what is the volume? And then lastly, what prehistoric animal would this cage be a good size for, and why? So you might want to look back at it. Actually, in the back of this packet, there is some information on some dinosaurs, so you can kind of see how big they are. Okay, each one says, if you look, this is in the very back of your instruction manual, it'll tell you the size and the height. I'm sorry, the size and the weight, okay? So you might use that information to help you figure out, once you know what the perimeter, area, and volume are, you might use that to help you figure out what prehistoric animal or dinosaur would fit in that cage really well. All right. Next one. says, sauropods are one of the longest dinosaurs, measuring 165 feet long. Saltopus were some of the shortest, measuring only 3 feet long. A velociraptor measured almost 7 feet long. So you have 3 different dinosaurs with 3 different lengths. How many saltopus would you have to line up to be as long as a sauropod? How many velociraptors would need to be lined up to equal a sauropod? Okay, so there's 2 questions you need to answer on that one. I think that is all of them. Okay, so that is all of the questions. I'm pretty sure you guys have done most of that stuff before already this year. It'll be kind of a review for you. However, if you do have any questions, you are welcome to email myself, Mrs. Dyer, Mrs. Crumry, or give any of us a text or a call, and we can try to probably help you with those. But you should definitely at least try to do them on your own, because I think you are all capable of doing them. Okay? Now, those will take a little bit of time. Okay? So my suggestion would be do not save all 10 of those for the last day because you don't want to do your math. Okay? I would suggest doing a couple of those each day and then kind of gradually getting those math assignments taken care of. Okay? So that was task 14, which was called Do the Math. Okay? Task 14, Do the Math. I think I'll come back at you with one more video today, but if you don't see that one, have a great Friday today and have a great weekend.